Hello, everyone. This is the inaugural set of podcasts from the Australian Curriculum Studies Association. We are an organisation that seeks to provide that national voice on all things curriculum. So we are delighted to begin this set of podcasts with a real introduction to our board members and their educational journey so far. But first, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we choose to live, to work and to learn. I'm coming to you from the Whadjuk Noongar Nation in Perth, and Gavin is here from Darug and Gundungurra people of New South Wales. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders past and present and their contributions to education and continuing contributions to learners all over Australia. But first, here we go. We have got Dr Gavin Hays, who's currently the principal at all-boys school, Parramatta Marist High School in New South Wales. And Gavin really has been at the forefront of pedagogical change for some time, most specifically in PBL, flipped learning, and maybe one of my favourites, STEM. He's had quite a lot of international experience, having gone to Finland, Singapore, and the US, and has achieved his PhD, which is no mean feat, from Erasmus University in Rotterdam. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Gavin Hays this morning.
Thank you, Anna.
No worries. Well, I thought we'd start off with what maybe is quite an easy question. If we can, I suppose, cast your mind back, might be a few years, might be many years, but where do you think your motivation for getting into education came from?
Yeah, really good question. I think for me, first, I really enjoyed school, and I think that's probably that first positive experience that you have, especially secondary school. I didn't go straight into education.
Oh,
it got probably a higher mark than I thought I would get, and it opened up a few extra doors. So my first venture was as software engineering, so starting a bachelor of software engineering, and it was probably halfway through I realized that wasn't the pathway for me, and probably started to question where I wanted to be in a couple of years' time and what career I wanted to be, and again then just really reflecting on the positive relationships that I'd had at school, the great time that I'd had in that senior part. I probably wasn't the greatest student in 7 to 10, and that was probably why I wasn't necessarily always aspiring to some of those other careers. And then when I got the mark, then that's what made that decision there. So I started to reflect and wanted to go back and be a teacher. There was some thinking around, probably always in the back of my mind, wanted to be a PE health teacher. I quite like sport. And then when I sat down to make that transition, they said to me, well, you've already done a number of software engineering subjects and some economics. Would you be beneficial if you were a technology teacher? And so it was that part. I thought, well, I'm not going to waste the year that I've already done, and where the pathway went to, and again, just really loved every aspect of being a teacher, and continually, that's probably been a key part of me being a principal, is I had 5 years out of the school environment working in the Catholic head office, and I found that really a great experience, but really I missed the relationships that you form in a school, especially with the kids.
Yeah, and I think that's really good, isn't it? Especially when I think STEM took on such a drive in the last sort of 10 years, and to be in that space was very exciting, but also to bring that experience to teaching is really, really important, I think, isn't it? Sort of that connection to the workplace and to the classroom is really kind of beneficial to our students. So I suppose if you look back, or, sort of hopefully be looking forward as well, what has been your greatest achievement in the educational journey so far?
I think probably two things in there. I wouldn't say there's just one significant. I think the two things I would say is my initial journey here at Parramatta Marist, then my first principalship at Marion, and then obviously coming back here. It's been school improvement. I think that's been the greatest achievement, to be part of a journey within schools as they improve both academically, but also building the capacity of teachers is probably been some of those key things. So that's probably the second one there as well, as you know, working with early career teachers and then building their capacity, their confidence, and seeing them move on to other leadership roles. And it's again, now I'm starting to, you know, coming back here, there's a number of the early career teachers at this school I taught. So that's interesting kind of as we change in life, but also some of my colleagues that are moving into assistant principalships around, and principalships have been people that I've been able to mentor and work with. So again, it's seeing their changes in the building of their capacity, and them also staying within the profession, I think is key to that.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely the role of that principal, isn't it? You're not just in that space for students. You are so kind of, I suppose, you're so understanding of all of your professionals that you work with, and what's the best for them and how they learn and how they kind of where their career paths are going. So it's kind of it just shows how multifaceted your role is, I suppose, as a principal. But I suppose looking back, and, you know, it's very hard, and I often think we don't have much time to do this, but with the luxury of reflection, is there something that you think, you know what, I might have done that differently, or, you know, what might you have done something that you go, you know, that power of reflection, I guess.
Yeah, I think probably aligning with what we're just talking about, building capacity of our leaders and our teachers. I think the challenge when you look at like school improvement and improving outcomes for our students as a leader, you think, especially even as a principal, you think that's your outcome, but you actually don't have a direct link to do that. And probably that was probably some the mistakes I might have made earlier. With trying to kind of go straight in that space, and upon reflection, really kind of understanding my sphere of influence is my leaders that I have, and my job is actually to build their capacity to then build the capacity of the teachers, and then the teachers are the ones that then have the most influence on those student outcomes. So there was probably a little bit of bypassing there that I learned quite early on, and in the frustrations of maybe things not moving as fast as what you'd like them to do. I had some pretty good mentoring and people picked up for me that, I needed to work more with my leaders and build capacity around, and a lot around the sphere of influence there as well. I think also probably two texts that were spending a lot of time as a leadership team around is Adam Grant's Think Again, and James Clear's Atomic Habits as well. So really looking at some of those kind of really more small incremental changes that we can make, and building an environment where we're just focusing on continual improvements and building back some good feedback loops, really being consistent around the different data sets that we're looking at to make our decisions there, and just being really good in reflecting and not getting kind of stuck in our own with our own biases.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Learning to play the long game is quite difficult in education when you're looking at another kind of initiative. Often we get stuck in that, or we have a big changeover of staff and that kind of thing, where it's to kind of push things through, and being the ability to step back and know that sometimes what you're doing right now might not have an effect till further down the line. It's really important. So obviously, being the Australian Curriculum Studies Association, the key word being there is curriculum. And it obviously goes around in debate a lot, and obviously it's often very much discussed in the political sphere. But I guess for you personally, what do you see curriculum as?
Yeah, I think this has always been a challenge for me with ACSA and serving on the board there, because probably a lot of my probably work has been in the pedagogical space, and it's been just probably there's been some people on the board who have at times had some really nice, courageous conversations, drifting myself back into this. So for me, curriculum is really around what we teach, and it's around the depth and the breadth. And I think it probably was my PhD around looking at conceptual knowledge and the way in which that is retrieved from short-term to long-term memory. I think that's kind of helped me understand those conceptual aspects of what we teach, but also as well in that capability space there as well. That's probably where I've got that. It's not just the concepts and the content, but there are our enduring capabilities there, which is probably being technology STEM as my area there. There's that we probably don't have a dense curriculum documents that we're working through as within other subjects and disciplines. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, and occasionally I constantly probably need it to be realigned, because I do drift into that other space. But I think again, it just brings a different perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's the bonus of being in the STEM space. The problem-solving skills are probably pretty good, I would have said. You do a lot of that in the STEM space. But I guess what we are seeing a lot of, and a lot of discussion in the public eye and the media, is losing staff, the retention of staff, but also some of the other problems we're facing. What do you see as one of the biggest problems facing our profession at the moment?
Yeah, I think it is. It's not so much. It's the sustainability of keeping great teachers in the profession. So I think that's the probably the biggest. I think we're attracting really good teachers in the profession, but I don't see that we're actually sustaining them long term into the profession there. And I think there's probably a number of reasons. Early on that we might lose them, and then or even mid-career. I think they're probably the ones that frustrate me the most. Where we're losing those there, and seeing great teachers who will make a significant impact on lots of students. So definitely. I think that's probably the greatest challenge. I don't think it's as. I don't feel in both the two schools that I've just been principal of at the moment there that the shortage isn't as bad as what it probably was there, but it's just probably upon reflection, it's staying great teachers.
And that's it as well. When we're talking about that long game, seeing that bigger picture, you need a team, a consistent team as well, to keep that reinforcement, don't you? And then you do look at a lot of, especially rural schools or those ones quite far out, that are really struggling with that high turnover, or competing with other industries surrounding that are offering a different approach to life as well. You're completely right. So I suppose looking forward to the future, we like to always make sure we're keeping positive. What do you think are some really exciting things that are happening in education? And, what do you see the future looking like for us?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we're obviously facing at the moment, and I thought it might have just been a local area within New South Wales, but at the symposium at ACSA last year, I understood it was actually a more broader issue, is just this dichotomy around with explicit instruction at the moment versus other pedagogical approaches there. And I think that for me, whoever can really get some clarity around what this looks like, it's not an either or, but it's a way in which that we do both in our environments there. I think whoever gets the clarity, and it's the worked examples of it. I think there's a lot of probably frameworks and kind of statements that are coming out, but probably there isn't at the moment examples of those schools that are able to show the best practice backed up by the growth in outcomes that we're all wanting to see there. So that's probably what we don't have. And the same is probably in the space of the use of AI. I think that we're starting to kind of have some aspects of where, especially within the teaching profession there, it can actually start to reduce the workload of teachers. So seeing some really good examples starting to come out, but I think I think there's a whole lot of extra work and examples that can be done within that.
Definitely. And I think you're completely right. I think when we look at pedagogical approaches, we kind of get into a state of sort of weaponizing the terms against one another, and forget that the real issue that we, should be focusing on is the child and their need, isn't it? And kind of working around that and going, this approach is significantly important for this child versus that one. And I know that's a huge workload on teachers, but it also, I think, it's that having the confidence in your staff to have the autonomy to know and to make those decisions, isn't it? And kind of expose them to so much in that sense of that pedagogical space, but then to let them really make some of those bigger decisions along the way. So the most important question, which I've left to last, because I know that my favorite teacher was the most fabulous English teacher, which obviously I didn't go into, which was a guy called Mr. Luton, who made me fall in love with Shakespeare and I suppose all the complexities of the English language. But for you, who do you remember the most from your teaching career and why?
Yeah, I think for me it was, and I didn't really love mathematics. And so for me it was my senior, my year 11 and 12 mathematics teacher. And I think that, and all fond memories of any teacher is really around the relationships that they're able to build with you. But for him, probably the added part was that he was able to provide a platform where I experienced small successes that occurred to the point then that, when I graduated in the course that I had for mathematics, I was first in the school there. And that was something I hadn't really ever experienced within school. But it came about from really gradual kind of, you've done well here, here's your next step. And that clarity, I think, is really, really important there. I used to talk about, and I was just having a conversation today with some of my English staff about, I felt at school that my English teachers had a stamp of 12 out of 20 for me. And I felt like if I did a lot of work, I got 12 out of 20. If I did no work, I seemed to get 12 out of 20. And we're talking about just that clarity that the teachers can provide of like, here is your next step, and how that really helps students then experience that sense of success.
Yeah, and I think what you would like, when you were talking about your maths teacher there, it was the fact that someone really believed in you. That belief, you had someone who was watching your back and making you be the best that you can be. And I think all of us in the profession, that's what we'd really hope to instill, I suppose, in the future, young youth people for today. Okay, well, I'm going to stop there because that went really fast and that was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Gavin Hays. And if you would like to know more about Gavin's work and the wonderful stuff that's happening in his school, we'll be dropping some links in the comments below. But until next time, thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.